Okay, I guess it's 4 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Aaron Hurd. I'm from the S.J. Quinney College of Law with the University of Utah. I'm on a web development staff of 2, and both of us are named Aaron, which is mildly to moderately confusing. But it's been over a year now, and slowly our faculty is starting to figure out that there are 2 of us. Even though we don't look anything like each other, I mean, little details like I have hair, he doesn't, my glasses. I mean, I guess we're both guys, but there's really no resemblance. But slowly, you're starting to figure it out, isn't it? So, today we are going to talk about polishing your digital identity, or your digital storefront, which of course would be our websites. And before I get started, I want to ask you some theoretical questions here. You don't have to answer, just think about it. Suppose you're in the market for a new mattress. Kind of important thing. You want it to be nice and comfy, not cheap. You want it to last a while, so you're prepared to spend a few $100s on this. And there are 2 mattress stores in your neighborhood, and so you decide to go take a little drive, check them out. And you've got these 2. On the right, you've got this nice, clean looking thing. It's nice and open, kind of professional logo there. And, well, on the left, we've got some garbage and knocked over sign, stuff outside. I don't even know what's going on at the 2nd floor. But maybe they're having a sale and left that sign that's left there by accident. I don't know. So another theoretical question for you. Suppose you're in the market for some computer parts, or maybe a brand new computer. You prefer to buy it online and be able to use your credit card, rack up some reward points. A couple friends suggest a couple sites you can go to. So for one, you've got this one. Looks nice. Kind of professional, clean look. What's cracking? We got Shell Shocker. That's kind of fun. Looks nice. On the other hand, you also have, okay. Well, it looks like these guys also sell jewelry at unbelievable prices. And we've got some really bad looking attempt at transparency on the image, inconsistent use of fonts. But hey, if you bring in your power supply, they will test it for free. Yay. Okay, let's say you've decided your resume needs a little work, and you've decided to spend thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands of dollars, and give several years of your life to an institution of higher education, let's say a law school. So you've done a little bit of research. There are 2 that you're interested in. You're going to go to their websites to get a little more information. I guess we live in Maryland, or we want to go there, because we've got the University of Maryland School of Law. Looking good, looking sharp. It's a vibrant urban campus in Baltimore. Okay. And the other one that we're thinking of is, oh goodness, the University of Law School's School of Law. And besides having a really silly name, their site is kind of weird. Got some crappy HTML tables here. What's going on with the logo? And what kind of name is that anyway? It's like somebody just made that up. Anyway, point here is our storefronts or our websites say a great deal about us. Now, one thing important to keep in mind is what they're saying about us might not necessarily be true. For all we know, this is a fine establishment run by some of the most honest people in the world. They sell an excellent product at an excellent price, and anybody who's brave enough to walk through those doors walks out extremely happy and satisfied and recommends this place to all their friends. Maybe. But that's not really the impression that I'm getting right now. Something must be going right though, because they've been there and looking like that for about 6 years. This site, I've personally done a lot of business with this company. I've used to spend a great deal of money there. I got really good prices, got really good customer service, and was always satisfied. Of course, that was back in 2000, 2001, when a site that looked like that was at least moderately acceptable. And I haven't done any business with them since, and there are reasons, but one of the reasons is, gosh, if they can't be bothered to update their website in 9 years, can they be bothered to take care of me as a customer still? And maybe if their web staff isn't capable of making it look or function any better, are they capable of keeping track or taking care of my credit card information? Maybe. And again, assuming that this was a real institution, for all we know, it could have the theoretically best professors in the world and just be an amazing law school with amazing technology, except for their website. And the students that go in there come out happy, perfectly satisfied, and get the best jobs at the best places and make millions and millions a year. Maybe. That's not the impression that I'm getting right now. So, at the school I'm from, the S.J. Quinney College of Law, we've decided that maybe our website isn't giving the image that we want to. Now, it's okay. It's all right. We get compliments on it, and it's definitely a cut above our main campus website, which, for the sake of my career, I will not mention anything else about. But it could use some work. But it's okay right now. But let's look at it again later and see if maybe we still think that. One of the things I like most about Cali is it's a great place to kind of see what other people are doing and how they're doing it, get ideas to take home and things to think about. So I'd like to share with you some of what we're doing in our process right now of redesigning our website, which we hope to have out by the end of August. Some of the steps so that maybe if you're thinking of redesigning or even just incremental upgrades, you'll kind of know what to expect. And whether you're doing it in-house or you're hiring it out, a lot of these things will be useful to know so that you'll know what to look for and you'll know whether or not the website that company X has given you is really the website you want to pay them for. So, redesign process. First step is to ask the question, who is our site for? It kind of seems like an obvious question, and it's not usually something that we think of consciously. It's just sort of second nature. But we tend to be like this guy and think, well, if it's our website, it's for us. Yay! No, totally wrong. F minus minus. So what we're looking at here is a screenshot from our Google Analytics page. Now, I know from the presentation yesterday that at least 40% of you are not using Google Analytics. You might be using something else, but some of you are using nothing. I invite you to repent. Moving on, what this is showing us, the first two, I don't know if you can read it very well, the first two lines here are just our main page, so we're kind of going to ignore them. Oh, and these are our statistics for the last 2 years. So the first thing, the first section that our visitors are going to, highest rank, is our prospective students section. Okay? Second one is our career section, which is something that both current and prospective students would be interested in. And we're followed by our faculty profiles. Again, considering a law school, something prospective students, current students, media, peer organizations would be interested in. Library is next. Useful for our current students, of course, it's a resource. Then our faculty pages, and unless they're really self-obsessed and just love reading their own bios, it's probably not our faculty going there, it's probably our current and prospective students, other organizations. We've got got our current students section, our help desk section, a resource for our current students, academic blogs, news, calendar, and media are coming at the end. So maybe you've noticed a pattern here. It's our students. It's our current or prospective students or peer organizations and probably a little bit of news media that our site is for. It's not for us. And therefore, why would we design it for us? So keep that in mind as we keep going along. And trying to keep that in mind, we surveyed each of the top 10 groups of our according to that ranking about our website, and tried to get their ideas about it, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they thought could improve. And because, of course, they're not web designers, a lot of what they had to say was not particularly useful, but some of it was. And some of it was extremely useful. And just in talking to them, we were able to get an idea of just what their objectives were, what they were trying to do with their section of the website. And especially interesting were the questions we framed like this. How can we better reach your audience? Because of course, it's sort of just human nature when we ask them what they think, or when I'm asked what I think about the website, of course I think, well, what do I like about it? What do I not like about it? How does it work for me? We do have to remind them, just like we have to remind ourselves, that well, we're not particularly interested in what you think about it. Of course, we want it to be usable for you. We want you to be able to update things on the back end. But what do you think we can do to better reach your piece of our audience? And then, of course, we also surveyed some of our students. We wanted to know what they liked and didn't like about the site. And, almost as importantly, what other sites are they going to? Not necessarily even related to law school or higher ed at all. We wanted to know Facebook, MySpace, New York Times, like what sites you're going to. Okay, maybe there's a few I can think of from particularly our male audience that maybe I didn't want to know what they were going to. But what were they spending a lot of time on? And why would we care if they're spending a lot of time on Facebook or the New York Times? Well, the next step after doing this survey was to look around. The reason why we want to look around is well stated by Jacob Nielsen's Law of Web User Experience. Jacob Nielsen is a famous, renowned web usability expert. And what his law says is that users spend most of their time on other websites. Okay, duh. Well, what that means is people are not spending $30 a month, $30 to $60 a month on a home internet connection, going to Best Buy and buying computers so that they can sit down in a nice comfy chair and a laptop table to come to our website and spend the rest of the day there. If we're lucky, we are probably maybe one of a dozen open tabs. And the time they spend on our site comprises maybe 10 minutes for every 60 hours that our users are spending online. So not to discourage us or make us think our websites are useless, but the point is our users are going to be judging our site, how it should look, how it should act, based on the other places that they're going to and based upon the other sites within our industry or other higher ed websites in our case. Now there's a very, very excellent tool that will help you see what else is going on, because you want to know. edustyle.net, and of course, I know a lot of you were at the Law School Web Trends yesterday. Georgetown Law Library has just put together an incredible resource at this URL. They've collected hundreds of law school websites and analyzed them. What color scheme are they using? Are they using JavaScript or not? What do their search boxes look like? Where are they? And their screenshots. That's just an amazing tool for seeing specifically what's going on in the law school website world. I'm going to give you a quick taste for those of you who've never used like it says, this is a site dedicated to the inspiration for campus web designers. And of course, it's a collection of higher ed websites. And one of the best things about it is how it's organized. Redesigned, popular, and new. So you can not only see what's going on, you can see if that's working for people. Clearly, this one is 32 votes up and 0 down. So that might be an interesting site to look at. You can also, another great thing about this is to look at other people who are redesigning other institutions, and you can view before and after shots of their website, so you can see, well, just what have they done to improve? What did it look like before? And that can give you a really good idea of, well, how does our site look, and how do we want to improve that? Where do we want to? Okay. Another really important thing to keep in mind, though, is not to get too hung up, especially at this stage. You want it to look good. You don't want it to look like ULSSL, where your students are going to expect you to travel in time back to the year 1996 when they come to your school. You want it to look good and modern, but what you cannot forget is the importance of navigation and content. You can have an amazingly beautiful site, but if people can't find what they're looking for, which, although I made a pretty big deal about how your site looks at the beginning, if they can't find what they're looking for, well, what do you have? Let me give you an example of why you might be interested in why another school is where they're putting their search box or link X. What we've got here is from Salt Lake City. This is a local news station, and we have a guy called Gephardt, who's an investigative reporter. You can report shady business dealings to him, and he'll investigate or buy products of questionable quality to let you know if they're okay. Well, my wife wanted to report something to him. She had a bad experience with a certain company. And on his show, he says, well, come to my site and email me if you have problems. Well, she did exactly that. And I need to point out that this contact box was not there at the time. So the first place she looked was up here. Okay, where's the email link? Well, maybe it's under this Gephardt section. Makes sense. Did Gephardt? His email would probably be in there. No. All right. Bill's links. Still no. She scrolled down to the footer. Wasn't it the footer? Okay, well, let's try up the other side, looking at all the places where she would normally expect to find this email. Still didn't find it up here, didn't find it up here, didn't find it in here. Eventually, she calls me over. I help. I'm a web developer. You think I'd know. I can't find it. It's probably been easily 15 to 20 minutes of searching the site and just getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And it's only when we've decided to completely give up that we notice it's right here. Bam. Now the takeaway from this is that the designers of this website put this in an unexpected place. According to our collective experience on the internet, this email link was nowhere where we expected to find it, even though the designers probably thought that was pretty obvious. And honestly, it is. There's a banner, it says click here to email. We didn't even see it. And even as obvious as it was, it was clearly not so obvious that they didn't feel they needed to put this really, really obvious contact form on the side in a place where one might expect to find it. Which is why we care. Getting back to Keynote. Okay. Another really useful site is uipatterns.com. They've got a great gallery of sites you can look at, great articles. One of the most important things is heat maps like this. This particular one is showing on some of the most popular sites on the web the location of your login or create account link. Now again, why do we care? Well, because if most sites are putting their login link in the upper right corner and you put yours in the bottom left, no matter, again, how obvious you might have thought it was, there are a lot of people who are never going to find it and are just going to get angry. The first place most users are going to look is in the top right corner. I'm not saying don't be creative with your sites, but do you really want to be the site people had to give up on because they couldn't find the link? Now, design, that's a different thing. Totally, got to be unique, you got to stand apart, but certain navigation things you really want to follow the crowd. Let me give you another example of what happens when beauty is placed before navigation. I saw a few ads, maybe you have too, for this laptop, the Dell Adamo laptop. Saw a few ads, looked really neat, kind of like a MacBook. And after 3 or 4 exposures to this advertisement, I could finally be bothered to remember the URL and type it in and go check it out. And it looks like we have some absurdly attractive people in totally unrealistic situations holding this laptop here. Okay, that's nice, but I already know what it looks like. How heavy is it? Like, is it fast? And how much does it cost? Is this something I really want to buy? So let's find out. Okay, well, I'm presented with encounter, discover, admire, and commit. All right, let's encounter the thing. That doesn't answer any of my questions. I can see how its story begins. I don't really care.
We're all going to look really good if we carry them around.
Yeah. Clearly, clearly, and that might have been one of my questions. Will I look incredibly hot with this laptop? That has been answered. But I still don't know if it's fast or how much it's going to cost me to be incredibly hot. So maybe I'll discover it. Okay. Look, it's a screw. Sweet. Admire. Wow. Okay. The keyboard. I figured I had one. The screw. All right. Commit, to me, that sounds like buying it right now, but that's not something I want to do because I don't know how much it's going to cost, but what the heck. Okay, it comes in 2 colors. I kind of wanted the silver one, but I don't really care. Oh, look, there's a little bit of information. Okay, so it's reasonably fast. I mean, that's all right. So they've answered about half of my questions. I've been on this site for several minutes now. The rest, I still don't know how much it costs, but they want me to order it right now at Dell.com anyway. And by this point, I just gave up. I didn't care anymore. I like this thing. It's got a cool sticker on it. Turns out, though, that if you do decide to order it right now, only then do you finally find out how much it costs, and in very small text, how much it weighs. The details you were looking for the entire time. Now the point here is, I came to this website with a question. I didn't come to admire or encounter or see the story of. I had a question that I wanted to be answered. Maybe something like this person here. It's a future student, maybe, assuming that we don't make her too much more upset. She just wants to know what kind of scholarships we have at SJQ. Well, turns out that right now, in order to figure that out, she has to click on current students and award details. Where in any of that does it say our scholarship information? Nowhere. She's not even a student, but the only way you can get to this is from our current student section. Now, just like the Adamo site, I'm sure Explore and Encounter and whatnot made total sense to some marketers and designers somewhere. It didn't make any sense to me. And the same thing is going on here. This makes perfect sense because to us, internally on paper, we call it awards. We don't call them scholarships. And because our scholarships are managed by our current students department, naturally we would file that under our current student section because that's just how our internal structure is organized. She has no clue how our internal structure is organized, and she doesn't care. She just wants to know something about scholarships. So we need to make sure that in designing our site's navigation, who are we making it for? Are we making it for us because that's how we do things? Our visitors don't care. They just don't care. They want their questions answered. They don't. Furthermore, we tend to use, and this is one way in which the looking around thing tends to backfire. Whereas I've noticed a lot of educational institutions and law schools, we tend to all use the exact same non-human verbiage. It's like we assume our students are like this guy. I'm an enthusiastic prospective student interested in data about your reciprocity policy. No, wrong, fail. Nobody besides lawyers talk like that, and they're not lawyers yet. That's why they're coming. And sometimes not even our students talk like that. I know most of our faculty don't. So, in order to combat this, now we take a look at this site again, and we find out that things are really organized according to how we think they need to be organized. Clearly, according to the statistics, nobody is that interested in our recent news, but it takes a huge section of our site. Same with our media. There are enough people interested that we definitely don't want to get rid of them, but most people coming to our site, they don't care. They don't care about the login to our intranet. Unless they know him, they don't really care that Professor Johnson has testified before the U.S. House Subcommittee. They are probably like our first student and just want to know where the heck our scholarship information is. How much is our tuition? What is our percentile report? So, well, one thing we've decided to do to improve things is take out all of our news and media and move them to a completely separate site, so that our main page can get down to the business of what our statistics are showing people want to do with it. They want to have their questions answered, and this isn't it. So we can give people a completely separate site. If you're interested in news, here is our news site. Not only does that cater better to them, it also solved a few internal disputes in that, well, the news box is only so big and we never get on there because it seems like all the news is always about some faculty member or other. Well, now we have enough space because we're not trying to do too much with our website anymore that we can kind of cater to everyone a little bit better. Yeah?
By separate site, you mean there'll be a link?
There will be a prominent link to this news page on our main page, but it's no longer going to be taking up a full quarter of our content space.
Okay.
Same with our media. It was the amount of space it was taking up was similar, and we found out through our statistics that most people, although we have a lot of media and a lot of it's very popular, most people were not getting to it through our main page. That it just didn't make sense to try to use that as a portal when nobody was using it that way. So that's another thing we broke out. And of course, these two sites that I've just showed you, these are just preliminary mock-ups. They're not quite finished yet, which is why they look a little rough around the edges. ulaw.tv, it's our prospective media site. And hopefully it looks a little bit familiar to any of you who have been to other video sites on the web. And that was intentional. The trick was try not to make it look exactly like Hulu, but close enough so that anybody who's been there before, which an increasing number of our students will be instantly comfortable. They'll know how to use it, and they won't have to spend who knows how long sitting there, okay, how do I use this site? Hopefully, they'll just be able to get there and start clicking away and get what they want as fast as possible. And then finally, I will show you what we have going. Now this is the roughest because we want to put the most work into this. Right now, it's the roughest of all our mock-ups. We haven't put a whole lot of cosmetic work into it. But this is the sort of idea we have going for our main page right now. We have a sort of featured news box, preferably what's going to go in here are more human interest stories, things that will actually be interesting to our students and our prospective students instead of Professor X. That sounds funny. Professor X saves the world. And you'll notice we completely removed that sidebar full of potentially confusing links. And the point here is what we want to do is we want to be conversational, to present our content in something closer to what our visitors are actually thinking so they don't have to sit there and translate. I want scholarship information. Which of these links could possibly take me to what I'm looking for? Hopefully a lot of this is going to be a lot more useful and a lot more friendly. And down here, ranked again according to what our statistics show people are most interested in or not, is our events, our news, and where some of our media and other content is going to go. Now another thing that we're trying to do, back to the example of how our scholarship information was somehow categorized into current students, we want to try to break down some of those internal organization walls. And our scholarship information is therefore going to be accessible. It could be accessible from any one or two or six of these boxes, just depending on how relevant it is. And another thing we're trying to do is make sure that no piece of information is more than 3 clicks away. Right now, we have sections on our website where you click on current students and you click on this subsection and you click on that one and then this one and then that one and then this one and then be given a link that actually goes to a PDF, but you don't get warned about that. And that's not very useful. So we want to make sure that everything, to the greatest extent we can, is within 2 or 3 clicks away. We're kind of working on that here. Again, subpages still have the sort of question-answer, conversational type language going on. This shows everything you can find in the section. Related blogs. People like to see blogs. It shows that your site is a living live. There's people behind it. It's not just being used as a digital billboard anymore. And it's one site that I really have to point out, now that I think about it, because we just really want to be like them when we grow up, is the University of Texas at Austin's webpage, specifically their recruitment site. Theirs does a lot of the same thing. This is pretty much just human interest, student interest type things. Again, they're doing it way better than we could hope to. Hopefully we can come close to something that they're doing. And with the conversational language, I heard that there are possible web pages following the trend. Things are 3 clicks away. We probably won't copy it because it would be just a little too blatant. But they've got this really excellent Do Stuff Online link here. And increasingly, my generation already does it. The millennials, the coming one does it more. The first thing we think about when we think of a company or a school is, well, do they have a website? And increasingly, well, of course they do if they're worth anything. And can I do X on website? They have done something terribly brilliant here and put everything that you can do on their website onto a single page. Fairly brilliant. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but since it's almost dinner time, I'm sure you won't mind to get out early. I guess I just talk faster in life than I do in rehearsal. Any questions?
Actually, 2. How long is this process for you? And then is it something you do internally?
Yes, we are doing it internally. I know some schools spend about at least a year on it. We're trying to keep our timetable down to 4 or 5 months. One one reason for that is it's going to help us, wish I had the quote, fire the committee. There's a quote out there by a popular web designer that says something to the effect of, fire the committee, no great website in history has been designed by more than 3 people. This is a deal breaker. So what we wanted to do, and that's part of the reason why we decided to survey people, is by speeding things up and keeping it just to ourselves, hopefully try to cut other people out from messing with us. You know, they're not web designers. We are. We kind of know what we're doing. But we also wanted to include, we didn't want to shut them out completely, which is another reason why we did the surveys, not only to help them feel like they really did have a say in what was happening, but to really try to get their ideas without having to resort to endless discussion and changing our minds. So we're looking at about 5 minutes.
Do you have any restrictions from institutional marketing or the central web team or like a content management system?
Content management system, I'll start with that. That's kind of an interesting thing. There are so many content management systems out there, and they depend so much on what you want to do. So I can't really recommend one. For everyone out there that does feature X extraordinarily well, it fails in feature Y. For one that does both of them, it doesn't have Z. Or it does Z really great, but lacks an X. So it depends. If you need X and Y, but not Z, there's your content management system. We have ultimately just decided to take the in-house one that was developed a couple years ago and just beat out the kinks, make it a little bit better, and just kind of stick with what we know to help speed things up a little. And then as far as restrictions, technically, yes. We're definitely being a little bit mavericks here and trying to really push the limits of our university's main campus's communication guidelines. Like I mentioned before, theirs are not exactly the most modern, and so we don't really mean to rebel, but we're trying to hopefully, by doing this, and we hope to get on EduStyle and get a lot of votes up, to prove that, hey, our guidelines are a little dated, we need to improve them. And so we're trying to be a little bit fearless and not worry too much about that.
What are these?
Oh, and our deeds behind it too. Yeah, he's full steam ahead on Maverickism in this respect. Anyone else? Well, thank you for coming. If you'd like to contact me, my email is there, and like I said, I have a collection of information related to all of this. Some of the links I talked about at this URL. Probably leave it up until the next year. So, thanks for coming.